drinking from a fountain, born of yesterday. Take me where the wild, wild lilies grow. When I get low, that's the way that it goes. Where the wild, wild lilies grow. Even though you're home, you can tell that you're home. Share the wild, wild lilies slow. In the undertow, I can follow the glow. Where the wild, wild lilies grow. Even though you're home, you can tell that you're home. Tell that you're home. I'm going in, I'ma make sure it's right. Hold up and you guys make a big page, but when I do big, I mean outrageous. Who you think is dealing with doll face? I only run my kings and who you know, cause I'm the ace by the case. That's right, I said I'm going in. While you out running your hands, I'm running this game on me. Natural born winner, work hard, play harder, come and get it if you wanna, but yo, you better know. I'm going
And you know, it's 3-match day here at the LPL on this gorgeous looking Saturday. And we are back in Beijing in JD Gaming's arena as they look to face SinoDragons here today and continue to cement their position in playoffs as we continue towards that charge. It is week 7, it is towards the end of the week, but one thing is for sure, both teams need these wins, and this could be the pivotal standpoint here in the LPL for spring. Hello and welcome back. My name's Jake Osipenko, and I have a very special guest in Jimmy Preacher Fu. If you don't know, we used to be on the Oceanic Challenger Series, and that was yonks ago, but now finally we've reunited.
Look, the boys have grown into men, and I'm just glad to be here, Jake. The LPL is the league that's always caught my attention and lived in my heart, to be honest, so it's good to be back.
It's been a while since you've been back as well, back in 2017, back in Australia when the LPL was all the way over there. However, we've got to get on with things, Preacher, because today we have a very big day, and yesterday being a big day as well. You'll question why on the Chinese broadcast. Well, TOP Vici, that's 2-0, that's fine. But LGD have now beaten IG and EDG 2-0.
I mean, they are the blue show of the league, all right? Let's talk about the first thing first. TOP and VG Gaming. Now, you might look at this and say, this is expected, but the games went very, very even in the first 10 minutes, and it was only afterwards, because of XX and also Knight, that TOP managed to pull themselves ahead. VG Gaming, they wanted to bring in a new top laner, ZDZ. Didn't really do too well, but it's a new player, so we can give him an opportunity.
It's very important as well. VG trying to recover there. Their playoff dream is slowly sinking here, but for a team like TOP, much being on top, and even LGD playing spoilers here at the moment to a team like EDG.
Yeah, I mean, EDG, if you take a look at their standings, it's not too bad, but their strength of schedule is actually pretty hard for them because they're coming up against FPX, TOP, IG, all of those teams. This loss could be the difference between making playoffs or not.
That's exactly right. Strength of schedule is the theme here, and today we have more strength of schedule on the board. With a team like JDG and Sino, look at their positioning there. 5-4, 5-3, that'll be the first matchup to define themselves further. Rogoro's V5 coming up, but BLG and Suning is a big one considering how Suning have gone so far.
Of course, finally my boys are breaking the 5-match losing streak, and now they are finally back in form. Can they make playoffs or not? A lot of people are hedging their bets and saying they definitely deserve to be at the start of the year, but the fact that they can no longer say that they're on this massive downer is definitely something good.
Look, it's a big story there for BLG as well. I mean, they've done so well to start the season off, but starting off with today, with JDG and SinoDragons, two teams who are coming in would go, oh, SinoDragons, LDL champions, they should be maybe 13th or 14th. They have started out incredible, but a team like JDG, I mean, it's going to be huge considering that, ladies and gentlemen, due to popular demand and request and the wait, We're on 9.4. It's finally here.
And what a great way to kick it off, Hysterics. I mean, 9.4 brings so many changes. First and foremost, it's a Conqueror change, right? It is now changed so that it affects both magic and physical damage. So one of the huge champions that got affected by this is Cassiopeia. Her E, her Twin Fangs can now be applied. All you need to do is do 5 of them, and then all of a sudden it pops. But we also have the Spear of Shojin. And if you use that on these champions like the Renekton, like the Fiora, like the Lucian, you just reset so many times that you have no idea what's going on.
Of course, the rest of the world has been in 9.4 for a little bit of time as well. But new Conquerors today, that's exactly right, with the Cassiopeia combination. We'll see what new changes come here, especially in this first series, because ADC changes in 9.3, the transition over, and for players like Imp, who I think has been performing very, very well, this is going to be huge, because it's fair to say, Imp is back.
And he is on quite a roll. Now, who is this Imp exactly? He was shaped and molded by his time on Samsung White when he won in 2014 the World Championship, if you recall, being an engager and being the person who really initiates these plays. He didn't really have a lot of success when he was brought over to the LPL in LGD, sometimes sitting on the bench as well. But now he has finally found his form, and his team enables him to be that koi player that we all know.
And on champions like Kai'Sa as well, it suits Imp's playstyle. The Kai'Sa, the Vayne, and even seeing here against Victory 5, he was a big linchpin to make this team threatened, especially in the Baron play.
Yeah, I mean, all of it is pretty much mechanics. The fact that he can dodge out so many abilities, the fact that he can time them perfectly as well. Normally, we don't talk about ADCs when we talk about champion selects all that much, because it doesn't really matter which ones you ban out. They still have a plethora, but Imp cannot be banned out in this particular instance. I mean, the huge thing to notice on him is how far forward he jumps because of his teams, and also how well he can react to plays. Like, just check out this, the perfect pixel stopwatch to make sure that he doesn't actually get initiated.
Yeah, you mentioned mechanics there before, and that's a really good showcase. It's also a moment where, for JDG, you say, okay, there's been so much focus on the mid lane and the top lane with big priority picks like the Yorick, the Swain. Yagao's been back on the rise again. That Imp just gets a free pass to have fun in these fights.
Yeah, because there's so much threat on every other member of his team. The ADC is rarely focused on, and when you have a beefy frontline who can also disengage for him, he doesn't need to worry about any of that. He just needs to worry about his mechanics.
And as well, he's one of the few players in the LPL that has been picking up Vayne. I mean, Vayne has had less of a priority in other ranges. Everyone's like, wow, Vayne. In LPL now, we're just like, oh, it's another Vayne here again, and it just happens to be on Imp. So a point there as well for JDG that their bottom lane is still versatile. You then compare it to the likes of someone from SinoDragons. Of course, I'm talking about GALA, who has been the new blood freshening up. But we're going to take a quick look at rosters here, Preacher. For SinoDragons, Changhong, Xiaopeng, Twila, GALA, and Mark in your bottom lane, and GALA being on the tip of your tongue.
Of course, and you wanted to talk about this guy because he has been so consistent throughout the league. But over on their opponents, they're versing Zoom in the top lane, Flawless in jungle, Yagao in mid lane, Imp and Lumao in the bottom lane, and Imp is your focus. Now, his stats are not quite as good as Gala's, but that is only because Gala has played consistently, whereas Imp started the year on a little bit of a down.
Let's go back to GALA, though, because you had a good point there about how, you know, GALA is the fresh blood coming in and does have some stats to support him.
I mean, GALA has a 5.2 KDA in the middle of team fights. That's pretty huge. What is it? What am I really comparing it to for reference? Imp's 3.2. That is a whole 2 extra kills every single game on average. And pretty much what this signifies is that he doesn't die in the middle of team fights. He's not really somebody who the team plays around. He plays around the team.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And with SinoDragons coming up, you have to start asking, all right, this team has been successful. GALA has been maybe not as much a linchpin, more like you said, GALA playing around the team itself rather than the other way around, which, I mean, you could say that about him too. So there's some similarities between the AD carries. But back to my ramblings before, their strength of schedule, SinoDragons have got a equal schedule coming up. I mean, FPX, RNG, and Suning are the hardest matchups. V5 and LGD in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have a sort of easy run. This is definitely one where they need to make sure that they win in order to really solidify their position. It also shows the rest of the league just how particularly strong they are. I wanted to touch on your point where you said both of these ADCs are very similar. One thing that they're extremely similar in is their most played champion, the Kai'Sa. So I want to see how they navigate the pick and ban regarding that.
We're changed in 9.4 as well. We've still seen Kai'Sa across the world. So we won't see maybe any transition in the LPL, but the first item has changed. Instead of seeing the Storm Razors now, which is absolutely garbage, I've got to say,
Don't pick it.
absolutely, yeah,
No.
do not pick it up. Infinity Edge first on the Kai'Sa, so small changes here, meaning the power spike, a little bit later, of course, with a more expensive item.
Yeah, but it doesn't really matter because what it means is that it's finally back. You can build crit again. ADCs, they start power spiking at 2 and they get even stronger at 3 items. You need to keep your eyes on that because especially for these two players who really want to make their way into team fights, just accelerate it.
Imp as well has played crit AD carries before very well. Ladies and gentlemen, let's refer to the Twitch that we saw out of the Samsung White AD carry. I mean, if crit AD carries are back, why not? It is the LPL.
You are going way far back there, Hysterics. I mean, we want to talk about something like the Vayne. Even though it had a loss against EDG, he still made a stellar performance. It was really his team who made a lot of mechanical errors that led to their defeat. But if we want to see Imp back in form, I don't even think that Vayne's a problem for him.
No, Vayne's definitely not a problem. Do we change the build path? A lot of questions here with 9.4. Of course, we have seen across the world 9.4 for a while, so a lot of those questions will be answered in a quick, short sentence, but 9.4 also came to LPL yesterday, and I have to say, small transition in team compositions, but it's still the LPL style, still those huge team compositions that are just going to be like, all right, lads, we're fighting now. How do we fight better? Oh, this is how we fight better.
And another huge thing that you need to keep in mind is that the LPL skipped 9.3, which means that all of those changes are coming online as well as 9.4. If you're not well versed in that, then maybe you should go back to the patch notes and read it up. One huge thing that I need to point out is Cassiopeia, Her Q and her W both got nerfed because there was a priority on her E max, so you could blast people with your twin fangs. Now she does it even more with Conqueror.
Yeah, no, of course, there was a priority on the W and the Q max as well, especially first, just to poison them and annoy them. But with the Twin Fangs now being a priority, I think it was Frostgren who said it this morning on the LEC that we're back to seeing Twin Fang max with the Conquerors, but even in the bottom lane, we're still seeing the phase rush, as we also saw on the LEC. So there is still some transitional period that we'll find out what is actually the strongest rune on the Cassiopeia. But both our bottom laners here don't feel like they're going to be playing mages into the bottom lane. It feels more like a Twila pick who's picked up the Aurelion Soul. It feels more like a Yagao pick in the mid lane.
So I was really wondering where you were going with that one, but eventually we got down to the fact that you do not want to play mages simply because Infinity Edge is so strong. You don't really want to verse these champions that get ahead at the 2-item power spike because a mage can't really do that. A mage's priority is before they really get to that point, and if you can't get ahead, then your scaling doesn't really matter.
Well, I mean, Preach, you're going to have to, whether it's in the mid lane or the AD carry, you're going to have to play a mage somewhere because it is the LPL again. With champions like Ryze being a high priority in Yagao, the Zoe as well. Don't forget, Yagao's champion pool is still very strong. Zoe has a massive win percentage here in the LPL.
Yeah, and Yagao, my god, even if you don't give him the Zoe for the poke and stuff like that, if you put him on an assassin, he can pretty much guarantee a victory for your team. He had an almost flawless ban rate of Akali against him. Now that Akali has been heavily nerfed so that she can't dodge out in her shroud anymore, and also she doesn't heal when she's at full energy, that's taken down. If it's not banned against him, I might even see the nerfed Akali on Yagao just because he's such a good player. Definitely
a big ask at 9.4. Let's break down a little bit because we've had a heavy focus on AD carries, and especially because it is going to be their patch. It is fair to be talking about GALA, about Imp. I want to talk heavily about Lumao, and I want to talk about Mark as well, because I think Mark, in comparison, will have a very good matchup into Lumao. He's been playing engaging supports, the Alistar, the Rakan, back before it got nerfed. I think it's actually getting buffed up as well, which is exciting. But Mark has had very consistent performances here on SinoDragons.
And it's a little bit of a worry going over for Lumao because he's not really known as this player who can counter-engage. The Galio and the Braum, not the best performances on, so we really have to see if he can really shape up his play. Lumao is such a core part of the team, but if you play engaged versus engaged, it's whoever gets it off first.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think at this point, when we do finally get into Champ Select, I'll be asking, okay, do we have that same priority on those engaged supports that we saw in 9.2 last week? Do we have the first pick Alistar, first pick Galio? Because it has been about the bottom lane, and in this series, yeah, he's so happy to be. We do have the same priority, but in 9.4 with all these changes, we haven't seen how the LPL's been able to adapt apart from yesterday's 2 series.
I would highly doubt that it's something first pick worthy, but I do think that both of these two teams need to pick up a support, especially an engaged support in the first rotation. Because if they don't, and if the heavyweights of Alistar are banned off the board, then all of a sudden you're left with this option of either playing something that's disengaged or something that's re-engaged once the enemy has ran out of steam. And both of those two support players are not really known to play those types of champions.
Yeah, remember, Mark is someone who likes to roam as well. At 15-20 minute mark, give him some mobility boots and he'll move to the mid lane. And SinoDragon, it's a predicament for them especially, because JDG, it's like the last stone in their path. If they can pull up a win against JDG here, the potential of them going to playoffs raises even higher. At the moment, in a less than comfortable position considering how close the LPL actually is. But SinoDragon have done enough to secure themselves a top 8 spot for now. Again, FPX, RNG, Suning, if they're performing by week 10, is going to be a big one. But if they can beat V5 and LGD and beat JDG here, while JDG are showing signs of inconsistency, to be fair, then there is potential that SinoDragon, for their first LPL split, can make playoffs.
And that's really what I wanted to talk to you about, Hysterics, because you've got V5 and SinoDragons, these two teams coming up from the LDL. But once they finally got into this league, they're playing mano-a-mano with themselves. If ever there were a team that could potentially make their way into the top 8 for playoffs, I think it would be V5 right here. So that matchup is very essential for SinoDragons. If they can get a lead in this match, then that could definitely give them morale they need.
Yeah, definitely could be. V5, of course, being after this in 2 Rogue Warriors and 2 matches time here for SinoDragon. Still curious, however, because with him, there was a lot of focus in the bottom lane, as we talked about. But Yagao, Zoom, still, the identity of this team is about the Dumpling Brothers. So it's curious because I don't think any of the 9.4 changes that applied to the other regions where you see the meta shifting is going to apply here. Even in 9.2, I mean, we saw the Renekton top. Zoom has been playing it. Now in 9.4, other regions are transitioning across Breacher. I think we're going to see a totally big shift of meta just flipped on its head.
I mean, you say that the LPL isn't going to transition, but my question is transition from what to what? Because we've already been playing the Renekton, we've already been playing the heavy bruisers in the top lane. That's not bound to change anytime soon. You said that the core fundamental identity of Jingdong is in the Dumpling Brothers, Zoom and Yagao. However, now that Imp is coming back into form, we could be shifting our priority from the top side of the map to the bottom one.
That's exactly right. Imp will be starting game 1. If you haven't already guessed and seen him sitting there, I have heard as well that Lumao has an account issue at the moment, so trying to get that sorted on stage. And we'll see how quickly we can get back in. But if we are shifting towards the bottom side for JDG, maybe their identity will change. But at this point, you know, Zoom and Yagao have been working together for so long now. It just seems that JDG is still playing through the same windows, but Imp opens up another, a realm of possibility here for Jingdong, being such a fresh organization in the LPL itself. I mean, there's so much time to work with. They're not leaving anytime soon.
No, and they're doing very well in the league, so there's no real reason for them to. They're improving day by day, especially by improving the core members that they have. Bringing on Imp for this year, he's been doing terrifically for them recently. I just want to see if they can really keep up this lead, because we were talking about SinoDragons' run into the later half of this split to make sure that they can make playoffs. Jingdong is also very heavily in contention.
Yeah, they are. I mean, both teams, realistically, when you looked at the midway point of the split, you'd say, well, SinoDragon and JDG should both make playoffs at this point. But then you start excluding teams like V5, you start excluding teams like even Suning, because of the way BLG is
on
going.
the cusp. They are right on the boundary, and now that they've just broke, I mean, I'm previewing our very last match, but yeah, the fact that they've actually got over their losing streak, their 5-match losing streak, means that they are on their way to victory.
I mean, later on, BLG and Suning is going to be a good matchup because it'll be a determining factor of who actually could be going to playoffs. We're getting closer to that point. Of course, we're still finishing off week 7, where other regions are towards week 8. But you know how LPL is, ladies and gentlemen. I want to bring to your attention as well for JDG a bit more about their schedule, because they have Vici Gaming, they have Snake, LGD. But in between that, we have the Suning matchup there, which is, you know, it's really rough for Suning because their schedule looks pretty cooked, if you'd say that. And RNG is coming up after for JDG, so there's a couple of potential wins there. It's at the point where you say, right, against SinoDragon, we cannot afford to lose this game because Suning might not be a win. RNG might not be a win. Even like LGD might not be a win after they beat EDG last night.
I wouldn't go that far, Hysterics. They are still at the bottom of the ladder, but they're looking much, much better. Jingdong right now. This game is not really for the points itself because it's simply one match. What they're fighting for right now is their definition in the league, to make sure that they define themselves as a top team that everybody else fears. You were talking about RNG coming up inside of their schedule. They really need to get as much morale as they possibly can because RNG is coming back into form. All of these teams, they're looking very, very difficult, so Jingdong does need to look like they're growing with the rest of the pack.
Okay, game 1 against SinoDragon though, that's going to be the start. We are waiting for Lumao to get that account started up. Apparently he's going to have a 1 in his name. So we're going to see classic Lumao 1, but that's still getting created, and we will have to see. Cause
I mean, it's a lower number than Clear Left 7, right?
Yeah, so he's got to start somewhere. It makes perfect sense. So for JDG and SinoDragon, there is, you know, kind of one statement that I can make boldly, and is it the fact that even though we talked heavily about the bottom lane, there's more lanes that influence the teams of SinoDragon and JDG. Already mentioned Zoom briefly, as we always do. But SinoDragon, you know, like the top side of their map, especially with Xiaopeng and the way he's been performing and picking up that niche in Italy, has had a very big influence on SinoDragon's early game.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it in the preview. The fact that his Nidalee, he blind speared somebody. Don't even need vision,
you got excited
right?
by that,
yeah, it was just pretty much all knowledge over there. You know, if you can predict all of these plays, if you can go for the aggression, especially when people aren't watching their window shopping and stuff like that, those are the small things that lead you to victory. And
that's competitive, is it?
Of course it is.
Window shopping, all right, man.
You know that it happens. It happens more often than not.
Yep.
You see people standing still, their backs get cancelled, and they just don't move.
Yeah, I know, that's pretty rough. Shouldn't happen in competitive play, but unfortunately it does. Xiaopeng, of course, will be starting off. We haven't seen any transitions in roster from SinoDragon, which is to be complimented. Considering that a lot of our newer teams in the LPL have been changing things up. Even last night we saw Vici Gaming bring in like their subs.
ZDC, yep.
Yeah, ZDC. ZDZ.
Are we going full on this one?
Yeah,
no. Look, it's growing pains over for them, but they just need to make sure that they can keep it consistent. Consistency will be the key.
Yeah, I mean, that's what SinoDragon have done here, as we are finally going to go into game number 1. And thank you so much for waiting with us patiently. And we will see 9.4 on the English broadcast officially starts now, and that is a Rek'Sai ban. One thing we forgot to mention there briefly is that Rek'Sai has just jumped up in priority, but ladies and gentlemen, you already knew that.
Yeah, we knew that she jumped up in priority because of her early game power. It's only increased by Conqueror, but we're not going to see it in this game, Hysterics. What I want to see is whether there is still a priority on the Akali, because we said that there was such a high ban rate, but now that she's been nerfed, it kind of looks as if the teams don't care too much.
Yeah, even though it is the LPL, I think that one's a bit wild for our taste. It'll be the Kalista and the Jace as the final ban. Tahm-Kench aimed against Mark. But SinoDragon, this would be a little bit too ambitious for my taste, considering that Changhong, we haven't known him for the Gangplank, more of the tank style in the top lane, and even the Jarvan there would suit Xiaopeng more.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking forward to a game scale. That would have been way too risky. For Jingdong right now, they have a perfect opportunity to try and pick up the Cassiopeia to make sure that they can both get it for themselves and deny it away from SinoDragons. That would be their top priority.
But I love what the thought is here from JDG. On the red side, Zoe has been filtered through, and especially since Lumao loves Alistar as well, 2 strong picks on the red side. On a side note as well, Yagao has such a good win rate here with the Zoe, and Yagao loves this champion, especially more so that in 9.4, a lot of the counters were nerfed away.
Yeah, of course. There's nobody really standing against their way. One quick thing that we do need to point out for both of these two teams is that while their match score varies, their game score is almost identical. 7 victories on blue side, 3 on red side. So blue side is definitely a very important pick. If nothing else, they're just for the top priority. However, on 9.4, they're not too certain which champions they need to be getting first.
Well, they go for the LeBlanc instead. I mean, this is kind of smart considering in the 1v1 matchup, LeBlanc can filter her way through this one as well. And SinoDragon filtering their way through the bottom lane. Looks like the Braum is the cause for concern for JDG if it gets locked in by Mark.
Yeah, very strange, because we were talking about which one's going to pick the engage, which one's going to pick the disengage, re-engage, and it looks as if SinoDragon are going to back down because of the Alistar first rotation from Jingdong. This might be very massive, because if SinoDragons can just hold on, wait until they're engaged on by Jingdong, and then use the Braum ultimate, we know that they can teamfight very well, especially with GALA.
Yeah, they definitely can. What is the final pickup here, though? Do we look at Imp's champion pool, or do we start with the jungle for Flawless? And of course, you pick up Kindred, because why not Flawless?
Yeah, but this leaves away so many ADCs that can be banned away. We were talking about how Kaiser is a huge pick for both of these two teams, so I wouldn't even be surprised if SinoDragons wants to get it off of Imp because he gets the first pick after the bans are done. But other than that, we can also see stuff like the Xayah get taken off just to make sure that GALA can't get that AoE down.
I'm curious if the Ezreal makes its way through. Of course, it hasn't been touched for a couple of patches and is such a safe bottom lane, but maybe safety is not the way to go for both these teams. The Xayah, as you mentioned, is the first ban by JDG, and it's going to be Imp losing away the Sivir, which has been a GALA pick.
Yeah, just want to see what exactly Imp gets stuck on because he does have the pick priority like we mentioned. Other than that, these two teams, it looks as if Jingdong, they want to win before laning phase even ends. They've got such comfortable champions for themselves, as well as Flawless being able to impact the map so early on, whereas SinoDragons, they're happy with the scale.
Well, not only that, they're building up for a pretty versatile team fight as well. Yagao and Zoe able to reposition quite quickly and looking for one flank to another, versing into that LeBlanc matchup. We'll see what 80 carry stimulates that a bit more for JDG. You have the Lucian banned away, and it's just been 80 carry after 80 carry. SinoDragon probably going to opt in for the same. It's actually the Aurelia in 9.4 that takes the cake.
Here we go. Kaiser's still open, and Imp has done massive success. We saw in the preview that he had an 80% win rate with this champion, and look, I would be surprised if he locked in any other champion, to be honest.
Yep. Crit changes, doesn't matter. Or does it?
Oh boy.
Maybe it does. Just do it anyway. If we see a Vayne, if we see a Kaiser, either way, more or less the same.
You gonna do this, Imp?
Nah, he's gonna go
No,
Kaiser.
of course
Alright.
not.
I mean, that's fair enough. It's also a big call out there to GALA, who just locks in Tristana. And I was expecting to see something along the lines of this for Imp, but more surprised by GALA's choice here.
Look, it's a personal favorite because Tristana just always has that late game security. Once you make it to level 18, your draw bead becomes too strong for the enemy to really deal with. Also, synergizes very well with her kit when she builds that early crit item in the Infinity Edge and also the either Static Shiv or Runan's Hurricane. This champion can do so much, and it's very versatile, especially for turret pushing.
Not the only late game champion that gets locked
they
in
do
with
decide to do
Gangplank. Yeah, Changhong in the top lane. JDG respond with Vladimir. Well, Zoom, call me surprised, but call me impressed at the same time. Bit of AP damage now for JDG. And setting up more of that team fight, setting up more of that 30, 40-minute fight that ends the game. I think we're going late.
Yeah, it looks like it's a very magic-focused composition coming out from Jingdong, but more than that, they've got the attrition, because they've got the Vladimir frontline who can constantly heal from all of that transfusion. If they are ever caught in a position in which Jingdong are sieging down SinoDragons, then they will have a far superior advantage, especially with the Zoe, especially with the Vladimir frontline.
Well, remember now that Kaiser actually goes Infinity Edge first, and we more often than not see a Zeal item coming second, or we go for the Gwinsus rather would be the right terminology. So we see a more evolved Q a lot quicker. We see more AD damage, so there is still a bit of AD damage in that JD comp. But for SinoDragon, you're just going back to comfortability. Changhong on what is a late carry. Instead of going for something like a tank. Risky against Zoom, as his Vladimir has been one to note in the past.
And normally I would say that the team that's punching the clock, in other words, the team that scales a little bit worse than the other one, will be the one who needs to make all of these early game plays. But I'm not really even worried for JD right here, because their team composition gets online so early. Not only that, but their players are so comfortable in all of their picks that, honestly, if the early game doesn't go to them, then it means that they need to redraw what exact pathing that they take.
Yeah, potentially. On the side of SinoDragon, I'm glad we see the Tristana. We were hyping up how the 1v1 or rather 2v2 in the bottom lane was going to go. But Tristana versus Kaiser, it's not often that in the LPL we've seen this matchup. But we know the pushing power of a Tristana. We know the ability of Twila to push out his lane and roam around. So a lot of mobility towards the bottom lane is the setup I see here.
Yeah, and it just favors SinoDragons so much, because there's not a lot that a Kaiser can do into a pushing Tristana early game, which means a whole lot of turret plating, unless there's jungle interference.
There should be. Let's get into game one. SinoDragon and JDG. Playoff implications might be what we're saying in week number 10, but for now, it is a series that is a must-win for both teams as we end ourselves in week number 7.
I'm not really one to stand on tradition here, Hysterics, but why did Jingdong go first when they're on red side? That's a question I have
It's their
to ask.
stadium. We're in Beijing, of course. The home stadium of JDG. So it is their own tradition to go first.
Of course. Especially with their manager shouting his lungs out. I don't really think that the early game is going to be too much of a problem for these two
Maybe
teams.
not, but I notice, I spy with my little eye Electrocute on Zoe here. Now, of course, you might be talking about, press the attack on Kindred, or that we don't see a Conqueror in game one, but Electrocute on the Zoe mid by Yagao.
Yeah, that's very weird because she needs to make sure that she can actually land a passive as well in the auto attack, more sparkles in order to land that extra damage into Electrocute. Maybe he's looking for some trades into LeBlanc to make sure that the LeBlanc can't actually get that early game lead, because if LeBlanc gets even one kill, then pretty much every single member on the side of JD can't really defend against her.
The ability to push out lane. We are looking at Flawless as well, because press the attack here on the Kindred jungle. As Xiaopeng is moving up to the top lane, Zoom is so far pushed out. He's level 1 as well. Flash!
Oh!
What a return flash from Xiaopeng underneath the turret. Double flash and 1 kill.
Predicted coming out from Xiaopeng. He had his finger on the flash just in case there was one coming out from Zoom. And even though Flawless was so close to the top lane by doing his Krugs, it just wasn't enough time to react to that.
The amount of creative pathing we've seen in the LPL from a Jarvan has been insane. And yes, I am referring to Tian in the games versus IG and even RNG. But Xiaopeng kind of imitating that a little bit to the top side of the map. Getting first blood for a Gangplank in lane is magnificent. And Flawless left to respond towards the bottom side as he just picked up his red, picked up his Krugs, wasn't in a position to get anywhere near the play, and now wants to contest bot side scuttle.
And now he loses out on even more because Flawless assumed that Xiaopeng was simply going up to the top side to pick up the Scuttle Crab, instead gets the first blood in the top lane and then goes back to the Scuttle Crab. I don't even think that Flawless really gets anything for himself that's an advantage.
No, he will be farming up though, picking up the double buffs, and after the Scuttle means he has river control. Xiaopeng sacrificing a couple of resources as Flawless will be at an even standing point with Xiaopeng.
Flawless should just be looking to make sure that he doesn't get outscaled too much, because right now Xiaopeng, he's got the impetus to simply go back, get his first jungle item, and after that point, the entire map is open up to him. But you got to check out the laners in this instance, because the top side of the map is pushing in favor of SinoDragon, and Tristana has no option in the bottom lane but to push with her explosive charge passive.
So that means there's an opportunity for Flawless, but he's going the other way, going back up to those Raptors, while Xiaopeng's still on the bottom side. Yagao has a pretty equal push against Twila in the mid lane as well. Very interesting paddle star dynamics, mechanics, pathing, whatever you want to call it. But Preacher, let's look at this early first blood again.
Yep, there was an assumption that he was going into the river, instead goes all the way up to the top side. Watch the double flash as well, because that's really the highlight. Predicted that Zoom would go backwards and used it perfectly so that he could just get on top of the Vladimir with no other escape.
I dig the white flag as well. Changhong went back, first back, and picked up a Sheen at 4 minutes in the game. And very threatening here for Zoom. Also surprised that we didn't see that, what is that silly sword called?
The silly sword?
Not Avarice Blade. What's
No,
the
you're
other
talking
one?
about the Executioner's Calling, right?
Executioner's Calling. The one item I will never get right.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a good build into Vladimir, but he's not even healing this far early on, so I wouldn't even expect it until the third item.
You'll be able to get the push out as well. With the Sheen one step closer towards the Trinity Force, as Xiaopeng making his re-entry in the top lane.
Flawless is coming, though.
Level 4 on both junglers.
He's looking for a lane gank, so this could be explosive.
The ward has expired. There's a control ward down. Zoom is level 5. Changhong pushes
Oh, boy.
a wave. There's a burst there as well. Flash from Flawless. Changhong not in time is Xiaopeng. Comes in anyway. And Flawless just going to return it on. Zoom chasing him up and well executed by JDG, but not so much by SinoDragons.
And it was all about speed. Flawless didn't even wait. As soon as he was at the tip of that brush, he goes in, calls for the engage from Zoom as well, and they managed to lock him down. Xiaopeng's looking for a re-engage, but I don't think anybody's going to get caught on
I think
this.
Flawless is like, surely the Jarvan's not nearby, but takes a safer path anyway. So teleport has to be burned to get back into lane. Xiaopeng behind the turret. Dragon
What
flag
is
there.
this?
Gets the electrocute down with the burn. Knows Jarvan is a beefy man. And Flawless maybe not playing safe enough.
What was that? Xiaopeng goes all the way deep in between those two turrets and picks up Flawless while he was transitioning to his Krugs. The TP was all he needed in order to spook him out.
Yeah, there's resources burnt there by SDG in the early game, but also by JDG. Flashes down on both junglers, but Xiaopeng is coming up first. The top lane, surprisingly, seems to be the priority in this game.
Yeah, I mean, when you got such easy early game gank targets, such as the Gangplank and the Vladimir, naturally these two junglers would be looking for free gold up there. It's very interesting that we talk about the top lane because Zuma's actually opted to go for the Kindle gem first because he wants more transfusions. He wants to make sure that he can stay healthy within this lane, but that's not really the thing that's killing him. The very first gank that took him down took him from 100 to 0, so it's not even about the healing that he needs to worry about.
It was a smartly timed flash from Xiaopeng. He secured topside Scuttle, ready to revisit, but a control ward there. We'll see the roam if Twila wants to join as well. While Flawless starts looking for more Mark, starts looking for more priority. Mark is being a little handsome devil as Flawless does secure away the big chicken. Mark knocked up as well, here for too long. SinoDragon turning this into a fight, but bopped away mid-air. Gala's rocket jump to 9 as Dragonflag is in once again from Xiaopeng. Two members locked under his wing, but slowed on down. Yagao does not have enough mana to follow up, but Twila does disengage from both teams with Summoner's Burn.
And the fact that nothing really got exchanged in that fight means that Jingdong come out ahead. The bottom lane, Imp, manages to get all of that wave and push it to turret, denying away a couple more CS from GALA, while GALA couldn't find any more kills. It was such a good headbutt to get the Tristana away when she was rocket jumping in that just engaged everything.
I mean, GALA will eventually catch up, but Imp is still even in this lane. A lot of priority given over to him to get the shove out, as you mentioned just before. Lu Mao eventually comes back down. Lu Mao 1, sorry. If you weren't listening in Champ Select, I'm not re-explaining it to him, but good headbutt from the support Alistar, which still seems to be a priority in 9.4.
And look, you might be keeping your eyes on the bottom lane CS difference to make sure that Imp utilize that extra time that he got into lane.
Immediately ults in. Can rocket jump be enough? There's a double flash. GALA does take the chunk of the trade. That means he has to get out of lane, and that was just pedal to the metal.
That was good. This is exactly how Jingdong need to play the bottom side of the map. They don't necessarily need to kill the Tristana. They don't even need to take turret plating. They just need to make sure that neither of those two things happen to them. Constantly pushing into the enemy turret, constantly making sure that Tristana cannot jump in is their motive, and they're doing it so well already.
Issue is, popped a couple of pots, and GALA was able to respond and freeze the wave back out in the middle, or reset, rather. And Xiaopeng was nearby, so still smart, proactive play here from SDG to make sure that bottom lane doesn't fall further behind. And GALA even sticks around for a little bit longer.
No, he TP back.
I beg your pardon, yes he did. It's TP versus heal on this bottom lane as well. So Imp's going to have to make the long walk, missing about 1 CS, while the bottom lane of SDG can roam up to this volatile mid laner.
1 CS, yeah, but over here, you really got to check out the jungling. Oh, no.
Xiaopeng misses the flag and drag. Lu Mao gets knocked up as well. Lands some fight times very well, but how is Lu Mao going to get out? Heals back up. Flawless has to deal with 4 members as Lu Mao is out, but now your jungler's dead. GALA picks up the kill. SinoDragon, rinse and repeat.
Yeah, unfortunately, Xiaopeng couldn't get the engage with his flag drag, but the ultimate does the job anyway. Manages to make sure that nobody from Jingdong can actually jump out of the situation. And even though Flawless uses his ultimate bravely to stop his allies from dying, he can't save himself.
This is a super rough early game now from JDG. 1,000 gold lead for SinoDragon. And Xiaopeng has been at the center of it all. 100% kill participation, equal in jungle as well. So the time management that he's getting here is Yagao is just going to poke into Twila. Ladies and gentlemen, Zoe will not be changed in 9.5. But again, SinoDragon, their jungler, making things happen earlier on. Almost has the Warrior Enchantment this early too.
And he is doing such a good job of bridging his team towards the late game, because ultimately that is where their eyes lie. With the Gangplank and also with the Tristana, they want to make sure that they can siege down turrets, but they're going to have a very long time doing it. This is very dangerous coming out from Flawless, because while he does have the lane priority in mid and in top lane, his team is behind for all of this.
Yeah, one step there for SinoDragon rather, as Lu Mao has found the Jarvan, failed flush over the wall. Xiaopeng going to be killing himself off this. Quite literally, as Yagao has been caught by Twila, but he's out immediately after his jungle falls. Changhong, for some reason, is now rotating over here as well. The Hemo Plague is going to burn him down with a beautiful transfusion. JDG just going balls to the wall.
And they go with their support as well. That was the difference between winning that engage and losing that engage. Lu Mao being there was the pivotal moment, because SinoDragons were not expecting him to go over, and that little failed flash that came out from Xiaopeng was all they needed to get back into this game.
Yeah, it definitely was. Capitalizing on each other's mistakes, JDG and SinoDragon have had these moments of inconsistencies in their series, but usually around the Game 2, Game 3, they tone it up, they fix it up, and this Game 1 is going to give us a showing of how this series could go. JDG's mid laner showing us that this series could go his way with a 20 CS advantage. This is why Yagao Zoe is constantly banned out. is just absolutely dominating this matchup, and Xiaopeng is forced to respond, while Flawless is having the time of his life at Rift Herald.
Yeah, look, this is exactly why you can't give the champion over. We were talking about how Yagao utilizes Zoe so well, not only in lane, but also in the roams. He's getting collapsed on.
I mean, he's playing towards the side of his jungler, but Yagao might be bursted down before he gets there. Dragonflag's there as well, flashed away from the Zoe. Yagao gonna poke his head back in, you devil. Mark just blocks it too. So smart positioning there from the mid laner of JDG, but SinoDragon really trying to make something happen.
Yeah, he definitely knows how to play this champion. He knew that he had the flash available in case they were going to get collapsed on, and even plays towards the top side of the map because he knows that if Lumao is coming towards him, it has to be from the bottom lane. So disengaging from the Alistar.
After backing as well, closer towards the Luden's Echo, that one-item power spike for Zoe going to be so much bigger than Twila. LeBlanc still behind in CS. It's quite even in the bottom lane, and in the top lane, it's quite even as well. So right now, the disparity you're seeing between JDG and SinoDragon has come together after those last couple kills, and the mid lane is really leading the way. And it's going to be apparent here when the Rift Herald gets dropped down what Yagao can really do.
And even though we said that there was a lot of focus out on the top side of the map, the mid laners know that eventually they will become the priority very soon. Because first of all, Rift Herald wants to be dropped, preferably in the mid lane. And second of all, there is just so much ganking potential coming out from both of these two supports to roam up to the mid lane. So they both get the Merc Treads, and Luma, he knows this.
Really good lens there to spot out SinoDragon as they try to complete their journey mid. On the real story here, Xiaopeng's trying to be everywhere at once, and I'm not sure he can do this because Imp is still fine in the bottom lane. Double pickaxe here, there's a lot of damage with the BF sword too, but Lumao's covered in. Imp's like, where are they? Oh boy. Still waiting. Rift Herald's going to be dropped top side. SinoDragon now eventually diving. There's the ultimate onto Imp. Can he survive long enough? He flashes away, heals too. Cataclysm, is it available? Yes, it is, but they're saving it. As GALA picks up Imp, Cataclysm now ends on Lumao, but in comes the Vladimir. Zoom! How did he get 2 out of 4? Will drop underneath this turret, but he's delayed it long enough as Yagao lands a sleepy troll bubble. That's the real one, and Yagao adds himself into the mix. The Dumpling Brothers, as they're known for, bringing the plays to their feet.
It initially started so well for SinoDragons to predict coming out from Mark to know exactly where Imp was going to land, but sooner or later when you're fighting under the enemy turret... Here we go. All right. Yeah, he knew that that was coming his way. He wanted to make sure that no goal was given over, but everybody just knew exactly what was happening. If you dive a turret for way too long before the 15-minute mark, you don't have enough health, there's not a lot of regen coming out, and things that go for that long really should not go the way of the diver.
All right, Preacher, show us what happened.
All right, so pretty much we're waiting for the engage. You need to watch out for that Cataclysm because it catches Imp after he ultimates, and then the dive is very self-sufficient just because all of the numbers are coming through. Now that they're staying for way too long, it's the combination of Zoom and the turret that's just demolishing all of them, and Yagao finishes it.
Yeah, good Hema Plague there as well. But Yagao, we said there would be issues with this Zoe, and even coming down, getting another kill, that adds to it. There's a Luden's Echo now on the mid laner. There is a fed Zoe, a fed Vladimir. Zoom picked up a Proto Belt after that fight. Flawless is now on the top side of the map for good reason. And while Xiaopeng has started roaming mid, bottom lane, maybe I can go top lane, he hasn't had any more priority. He's been starting the plays, but can he get into another lane? It seems a little bit disjointed at the moment for SinoDragon, with JDG kind of picking up their own feet.
And more importantly than that, there is a lot of vision that's blocking out Xiaopeng from these successful dives. The last one was very good, but right now, there's vision around the bottom side, there's vision around the top side as well, and of course, you can't really gank Yagao, so this is very difficult for him to come back onto the map. He acknowledges it, which is why he's trying to prioritize the dragon.
And you see Twila's roaming down there as well, trying to get that dragon sorted out, but getting deeper vision and maybe setting up the blue buff. Could be a trade here from Flawless as SinoDragon has taken over the bottom lane completely, breaking open the first turret of the game. Blue buff, as I mentioned before, is given over to Twila. And Flawless, his reaction is towards the top side of the map, and that turret is quite low after the Rift Herald, so there should be a trade of objectives.
And I also just want to see if the team of SinoDragon can really bring it back, because they are not really known as one of the best team fighting teams in the entire league. Although pretty much every team in the LPL has practiced that from time to time, you really have to watch Xiaopeng and his interference, because he wants to get his laners ahead. He sort of did that, and then it sort of backfired in the very last team fight. Now let's see.
Oh, now he's trying to make an impact mid. Yagao caught out. He can't get out of this. Troll bubble. Yep, not going to make a difference. Flawless comes in just as the afterthought. But that's a shutdown onto Yagao. Well, rather a bounty that was brewing up.
I mean, that was the advantage of the Jarvan, right? The fact that he could get halfway into a lane without really expending a flash at all to make sure that the enemy get locked down. And yeah, Zoe can't really get out of that because the ultimate doesn't facilitate. And no matter how close Flawless is, like we even saw in the very first gank, if you're not in the lane, you can't really do much against the Jarvan.
That's right, Flawless is a level behind as well. Up on CS by about 10, but you can see Xiaopeng, he already picked up Warriors, probably closer towards what looks to be a Black Cleaver. Jungler's still having the most impact. Just noticed Twila picked up his first item too. So first items really around the board. What I do want to mention is that GALA optimized into the rapid fire cannon rather than the Infinity Edge first, which he's still close to. Why is Imp not picked up? Because he picked up double pickaxe.
Oh,
yeah. But, well,
name and shame.
I mean, no, but he's had that for a while. He's obviously wanted a bit more damage, and that'll probably go into a 4th, 5th item. Maybe even goes into Guinsoo's.
Yeah, it's going to go into a Ginsu, so it's not like the worst thing in the world, but he does need to prioritize getting that early. He didn't have enough money for Infinity Edge last back, which is why he wanted the extra AD rather than the crit that doesn't do anything by itself. Flawless should be fine.
Yeah, Winter's Bite does land, but there's no follow-up here from SDG. And although the AD carry of JDG doesn't have his first item, you can see that the Rapid Fire Cannon is not making much of an impact either. There from GALA. Has a small bounty on his head as Troll Bubble going to land Yagao. See you later.
Yeah, strike a pose for the camera, but it's really weird that we see the Rapid Fire Cannon. There's no damage behind it, so you're not even really poking out Jingdong if you just get the random one auto attack in between everything else. And usually on Tristanas we see the static shiv because it synergizes very well with the E passive to push lanes very hard. Very strange that GALA has gone for this, and I want to see why exactly he has to utilize the maximum efficiency of this item. Hasn't happened yet.
I mean, still has the stats to go with. We know that Rapid Fire Cannon, Static Shiv, now Phantom Dancer has Lifeline attached to it, so there have been big changes to the Zeal items. Feels like I'm explaining this for the first time, but you've all been on patch 9.4 for like 3 weeks. We're so far behind. Yeah. What a trouble bubble landing from Yagao though. Hang on. Is he dead? Is Twila dead? Almost.
I mean, that's 75% of his health, so a little bit more AP onto Yagao. If he gets a death cap, that could pretty much be the left, right, good night.
I mean, the only reason that Twila survived that it wasn't on the same health as his clone is because the abilities hit the clone first. So pretty dangerous from a Zoe's always. Changhong might be caught out here by Flaws as more action continues here. The burn slowing him down. The 1v1 from a Kindred, that feels so bad if you're a Gangplank. Flashing away, will the burn kill him? No, but the Alistar will lure him out. G'day.
Yeah, he gets it with the ignite as well. Just one tick was all he needed to take down Changhong. It was such a good escape, especially with the flash from the Gangplank, but the random Alistar over the wall is just too much.
He's just trying to respond to the bottom lane as Zoom and Flawless push it in. Trying to match this Vladimir, who is pretty much the same level as him now and feeling pretty good in the matchup.
So let's take a look at where the gold actually lies for these teams, because even though they're very similar in terms of the gold, it's distributed so far differently. Over on the top side, it heavily favors Jingdong, whereas the bottom side, it looks like it's going more towards SinoDragons than anything else. So in the middle of team fights, what you would expect, especially if both these two teams opt in for the 1-4, is that the solo laners are going to have a really rough time. I mean, specifically Changhong is going to have a rough time into Zoom, whereas the main 4 component will be pushing very well for SinoDragons.
Well, potentially. SinoDragon can also run that 1-3-1 with Gangplank and LeBlanc. Don't need teleport on the LeBlanc, of course. When you have the mobility, when you're playing around an upcoming Ocean Dragon, and you put him in the top side as he is now with Baron coming up in 30 seconds. A lot of split push priority here from SDG. And at the moment, Yagao just has to respond to him. Speaking of items though, we've got second item picked up for pretty much everyone too. Waiting for Changhong, but there's a Spellbinder on Zoom, which is a very aggressive item, considering we do see the Zhonya's Hourglass. Yep.
You want to be able to get yourself in the middle as soon as possible.
Like this?
Yeah, we were mentioning that he gets a 1v1.
I mean, he's got the Hemo Plague. Remember, he has Phase Rush here on Vladimir.
Oh my God!
Gets destroyed, running for his life as Xiaopeng and Mark have to come down.
I mean, that was just a flex play. Realistically, you shouldn't be looking for a kill in that instance, but the fact that he did so much damage with his transfusion proc, he just said, all right, maybe I can actually take this 1v1 where I can just 100-0 this gameplay, even throughout his oranges.
And the difference is, if he has Spellbinder fully stacked there as well, that's a dead Gangplank.
Yeah, he definitely could have done that, but he just wanted to flex to make sure that he gets a very easy lane for himself.
Oh, speaking of flexing, Yagao Forces the double distortion there from Twila.
Yeah, that's just dirty, the angle that he shot that at. But we need to talk about the first items right now.
Preacher, I don't think we need to talk about bloody first items. Let's talk about the mid lane as Yagao's joined the fight as well. That is the Glacial Fissure lockdown down from Mark as SinoDragon are trying to get out of this play but re-engage off the bottom side river. Yagao again being a nuisance. SinoDragon getting flexed on here in this side lane, and again, JDG, easy to defend this mid lane turret, but can they get the fight out of it as well?
Oh, this is so dangerous to JD because they are cut off. They are split 2 and 3, so if they want to team fight, they all need to engage at the same time. Very difficult.
They're just going to leave this mid lane turret. Goes on down, and SinoDragon pick up more gold, but it's equal across the board. There's an Ocean Dragon there, but Yagao and Flawless heading towards it first. Happy to take the mismatch.
And it was just the simple knowledge of the map coming out from SinoDragons. They knew that Jingdong was splitting their members between defending the turret and prioritizing the dragon. They hard push the mid lane, and they just divide the team in order to get that free damage.
Pick up the dragon as well. It's very quick from JDG. Ocean for a team, and third one coming up there too.
I mean, that's pretty much correct. That's just a 50-50 even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See if it comes down to one. Mark might be caught out here. I'm not sure what Mark he's doing. There's an ultimate coming in from him. Forces the flash. Trouble Bubble is going to land, but is everyone in? Well, Luomao is with the Hex Flash. Pulverize knockup. Cannon Barrage is on top of JDG. Good Gangplank ultimate. Who got the blue buff? That's what I want to know. Well, Changhong definitely got Luomao. Now the Trouble Bubble lands once again. Hemoplague is there. Vladimir's in too. And JDG fighting front to back. So easily done. Lamb's Respite is just a bit of BM, it feels like at this point. Sniped out from Yagao. And SinoDragon too far forward. Now disengaged, but might give up Baron.
Honestly, that was such a good fight coming out from SinoDragons, but they didn't have Twila with them. If it was a straight 5v5 rather than a member missing, it could have been all the difference. But this is a free objective.
Oh,
Not if
no.
Twila has
Twila, you shouldn't be here. Stop giving Yagao Zoe, ladies and gentlemen, as he flushes back over the wall. Xiaopeng's next. I guarantee you, you are running in between two cars, oncoming traffic. That's what it is to verse Yagao on this Zoe, and that's what it is to verse JDG in game 1 with Baron as well.
And they're just trying to merge in, but that doesn't work with the rest of the entire squad. Taken down because there were uneven numbers in the fights, and they just keep on trying to go aggressive. Not sure why Twila is going over the wall. He doesn't have a smite, so there's no way that he can take down the Baron, and everybody else is pretty much on full HP. So the LeBlanc burns the most critical part of his kit, and this is the chase that we were looking at. It looks bad for Jingdong initially because there's so much damage mitigation and there's so much re-engage potential coming out, but take a look at where Twila is. Walking up from the bottom lane all the way towards here, he cannot join the fight until at least some members have died. And even though they do pick up that retaliation kill, why exactly is Changhong walking forward? Nobody's really certain because he's not watching the map and he doesn't know that his team is split.
I mean, between Zoom and Yagao, Dumpling Brothers unite. Because that was an absolute bonkers play and looked very easy for JDG. The difference between SinoDragon, the LDL champions, is still fresh to the LPL. Even after 7 weeks, still, there's not their splitters. You know, you can see the one-on-one prowess. You can see how Twila trying to take down Zoom in the side lane now, but JDG moving down. Length of experience here for JDG after 2018 is being shown here in this very first game.
Yeah, and the fact that there is a 4-1 Zoe, Yagao at that on the champion, means that this is going to be a very difficult game for SinoDragons to fight against. This is what we were talking about, Hysterics. If ever JD get into a position where they are sieging down turrets, they have the superior push because they got the poke on Yagao, and they also have the tankiness that can always regen in Zoom.
I mean, Yagao only missed that one by a slight risk of wind. Yagao comes back in, Paddlestar. Just watch the Zoe. Level 15 as well. And remember, it is Electrocute. Trouble Bubble is just precarious at this point. Flawless doesn't get the red buff, but at least challenges it. JDG continue to poke out Twila over the wall onto Flawless. Lance Spite is available. He pops it down. Yagao tries to help out. 1 versus 5. Can Flawless get out? Well, he does. Flash over the wall after a couple of ultimates. Cannon Barrage is coming down as well, right in the middle of the fight. Twila tries to get the poke on in, but his clone gets bursted down first. Zoom in to the front line. 1v5. Vladimir doesn't die, nor does Yagao, apparently. He zones off Changhong for the fight, but JDG with Baron buff minions, they'll just walk back mid after everything was expended by Sino.
And huge kudos to Zoom because he was playing the choke point colder. He just stood in the way to make sure that nobody from SinoDragons could re-engage onto his team. And realistically, even if he takes some damage from all of that, he still manages to heal it all up with his transfusion. So it was very good coordination of Jingdong to exfiltrate all of their members who are taking so much damage.
It's super rough, considering that, I mean, Imp still does damage. He's very quiet on the map right now. You know, ironically, GALA is as well, but we'll get into that discussion a little later. But Yagao and Zoom having the time of their lives. 4-1 and 2, 4-2 and 4. Give them the bounty, give them 3 items, which is what Zoom just picked up, and surely Yagao will be very close as well. And you have yourself the Dumpling Brothers.
Yeah. That is a delicious, delicious filling, Hysterics. But we also need to talk about the wrapping, which is the rest of the whole team. If you take a look at item spikes all over the board, especially in the bottom lane, 3 items going over to GALA, whereas Imp has only got 2.5. I mean, it's not the worst case scenario, but the fact that there is so much synergy between all of the crit and Infinity Edge means that GALA is going to be ripping through the members of Jingdong Gang.
I mean, the issue is, can he survive? At the moment, there's so much backline threat here. There's so much ability to get past the front line of SinoDragons. Xiaopeng is going to be engaging Marcus to sit on top of his AD carry, and even then it's hard as Changhong continually has to orange to get away from Sleepy Trouble Bubbles. So whether JDG let that full 5-on fight happen naturally is definitely beyond me right now.
I mean, there is just one job that we need to see Flawless do in the middle of team fights, and that is use his ultimate on the first person who's about to die. Because if he does that, he denies the rocket jump resets from GALA, and if GALA can't get any of that, then he might as well not get any positioning down to really push down hard DPS numbers for his team.
Very true. Flawless has also been baiting in with that Lamb's Respite a lot of time when he's been caught out, so denying the mobility there from SinoDragons, as you mentioned, seems to be key. Changhong. Do it, Zoom. 2 levels above. Do it. Changhong, like, no.
1v1. Here we go.
There's a Youmu's. He's slowed down. This is not fair. Changhong is dead. Watch him, Zoom, as he flashes forward. 1v1, add it to the list.
That's exactly what we expected out of these 2 solo laners from Jingdong. They just want to 1v1 whoever is on the map. Zoom happened to find out Changhong by pure coincidence, and we know that because he got into within half the range of his Q before he actually started the whole engagement. But better late than never, because he picks up the kill even though it's a flash to flash anyway.
I mean, that's rough because Changhong can teleport. Zoom has teleport as well. Baron is up in 50 seconds, and although he'll be there, Zoom's going to be able to get the push on this bottom wave, create a bit of pressure of his own, and JDG will be able to clear out this vision. No congestion.
And at this point, Zoom's ultimate is the perfect deterrence for his team against SinoDragons. Because if they start up the Baron, if they're baiting out the Baron, oh, here we go.
That's a quick Lamb's Respite though. So what was Twila looking to find? Maybe the ultimate, as he's still stuck here. The Cannon Barrage is there. Flawless survives though. Xiaopeng's coming in. There's a redemption over the side. So he's out. But that was a lot expended to look for the jungler of Flawless.
And the lanes were pushing towards the favor of Sino anyway. So even though they get him off the map and they make sure that he's disabled for a little while until Baron comes up, they don't get anything else off of it. Top lane's pushing. Mid lane is the only one that they could have potentially gone towards, but they even had the shorter track, the longer track, sorry, onto that, so they didn't rotate.
Yeah, how big's the cooldown though for Flawless? You can see there, Lamb's Respite a quarter of the way up. Twila picked up Banshee's Veil just for this condition. Is also 1 level behind as well. Just about as Yagao will hit 16 soon. Maybe look at SinoDragons because Xiaopeng has had to flash caught out. Zoom again in a choke. Perfect for a Vladimir. Going wrong for SinoDragons. They're escaping, but will JDG let them as they've already taken down the jungler? Keep getting caught out. SinoDragon was so deep there with a fed JDG.
And look, this is the exact definition that JDG need going into their future matchup. The fact that they can just play so well. However, this is a trade.
I mean, the issue is here,
Yagao's
Yagao's behind them. Looking for mid lane turret. Baron is going to go down, of course. The second one of the game. Where's Yagao? He backs away. And turret was left standing there. It could have been so much worse, but JDG, more gold in their back pockets anyway.
Yeah, that was extremely questionable. Because you don't have the minions with you, and when you don't, then there's extra defensibility.
Well, I mean, they
turrets.
did, but Yagao cleaned them out.
Yeah, it was pretty much just one shot. So I'm not too certain what exactly they were looking for. Yagao's not needed to put down DPS onto the Baron. So yeah, very questionable plays coming out from SinoDragons. It was a desperation attempt. I will agree with that because that's the best case scenario they can get out of it, but didn't even work out for them.
You got to remember as well that for SinoDragon right now, desperate plays are coming across because in game 1, they've lost the majority of control. They've got a cloud coming up, which for JDG is huge. And we'll see, they're just making desperation plays like this.
And everybody focuses down the jungler because they know if the Jarvan is no longer onto the map, that they cannot get the smite down. And that's all they really needed. They back out because they don't need any more than that. To deny away the smite is to guarantee the Baron.
Yep, SinoDragon were looking for the pick and get caught out themselves. now on the verge of losing their inhibitor turret as JDG push in as 5. Hex Flash is coming over the wall. Here comes Lumao, misses the pulverize, doesn't matter. Trample will zone them out as Yagao doing his job as well. What is LeBlanc doing? Twila, that's not the team fight you want to start off, and as Yagao goes back in, Twila, will he survive? But this time, yes, but an inhibitor drops, they lose their mid laner out of the fray, and JDG is just going to look for more turrets.
I think that was an excellent headbutt coming out from Lumao as well. As soon as the LeBlanc goes in with her distortion, he knows that he just needs to headbutt her away, make sure that the W elapses, and she gets caught in a precarious situation. Everybody manages to get out, but a lot of time wasted suits Jingle.
And now Gala's caught out as well.
Oh,
Can't
boy.
even rocket jump away. Imp is just burning that quick, that fast. And JDG doing exactly the same. Twila does pop the GA of Flawless, which is all he can do right now. Yagao looking for the chase as well. We'll zone out Twila, and JDG just heading for another inhibitor. And with Baron buff and with Gala's big death timer, I mean, they could potentially end.
It's so much potential coming out. However, the team of SinoDragons, they just need to defend it. It kind of looks as if this Rocky team...
I don't think they can do it.
No.
Already buffed away. Twila forced back again. The inhibitor turret, Nexus rather, will drop down first. JDG continue to push forward. Cannon Barrage trying to clear the way, but Yagao pops Twila to half. Here comes the Vladimir again. Mark saving the day, but really, how much can he do? Is SinoDragon on their last legs? Lambs for Spite will help them push into the Nexus, and SinoDragon drop so that JDG can be successful.
And we were talking about the successes that Jingdong have in the past. They pick up the Kaiser. They make sure that they can make it to that late game through their jungle play. Very creative ganks all around, even though they fell down very early on. And they pick up the very first game in this match.
It's the difference between junglers as well. Very good early game presence there from Xiaopeng, but had a lead, didn't revisit top, tried to go in the mid lane and forced a lot to get into there.
I mean, that is the biggest question that we have for him. We know that he has really good early game. We know that he has very good coordination with the rest of his team, but the team fights were a little bit lacking coming out of him.
They definitely were. JDG snowballed and took over. 10k gold lead at the end, but Yagao and Zoom back to their usual tricks.
Yeah, I mean, you can't leave these two solo laners apart from each other. There was the 1-4 coming out from SinoDragon. It was to their demise. They wanted to make sure that they could get that so that they could utilize the Gangplank. Didn't work out because Zoom, he was just all over Changhong.
I'm kind of impressed as well because we had a heavy focus on Imp and how Imp is back in form in that game, to be fair. I mean, Imp was playing very aggressively, just pretty much did exactly what JDG needed him to do, which is just be another threat on the back line. And, I mean, GALA had everything on him that game and just couldn't do anything at all. For SinoDragon, very interesting situation because now, you know, going into game 2, you're like, all right, well, you know, what do you change up? How do you kind of reinvigorate that early game?
Look, the early game was fine coming out from SinoDragons. It's really how do you transition that to make sure that you can get objectives through all the priority in your lanes and to make sure that you can pick up turrets as well. Those two were the things that were lacking. We saw Tristana in the game and she didn't really use the turret plating pushing to her advantage. So that was really odd coming out. They didn't have the security from their jungling because while you do have the push coming out as a Tristana, you can't hit the turret unless you know that your jungle's around to protect you. So a whole lot of that needs to change going into the next game.
Yeah, very true as well. But if you talk about the early game jungle of Flawless there, I mean, it was pretty stock standard. It was, all right, play reactive in the mid game. Yagao got a lead, Zoom got a lead. And when you have, you know, a Vladimir and a Zoe that fed that early on, you go, oh, okay, all right, this is going to be a good game.
And you also try to even out the score. You just try to make it so that people can stand on their own 2 feet to make sure that they can go, especially in the top side that we saw early game.
That's exactly right. We'll see what happens here because JDG and SinoDragon both need this series win. Crucial to securing playoffs at this point, but not 100%. We'll find out right after this.